Okay, I'm probably going to have to edit this video down because I'm going to ramble and I have a lot of things to discuss. Okay, first of all, let me just discuss what you're looking at. This is a fruiting wet stick that has sprouted and has leaves and roots now. What you're looking at are the remnants of fruit stems. When the Monstera fruits, the fruit grow off of little stems, and that's what those are. Those are the remnants of those stems. When the fruit falls off or is taken off, the stems will die, and they eventually, we could probably pull these off, but eventually they just will fall off by themselves and you'll be left with these little divots. And those are the telltale signs that this is a fruiting Monstera. But one thing I want to mention is just because you don't see these does not mean that this rest of this vine is not a fruiting Monstera. The only part of the vine that has these are right next to where the fruit has fruited. But that does not mean that this entire vine is not a fruiting vine. This entire vine has the same DNA. So regardless, if you just took two nodes right here, those two nodes, even though you wouldn't see these stem remnants, those two nodes are still fruiting nodes. So for instance, on this one, this is a fruiting one as well, and I will put some pictures to show you what the top is doing right now. I'm propagating the top, rooting it up as a fruiting Monstera, but the lower part of the vine I cut up into various pieces, and this is one of those pieces. And I actually cut that node in half. You see the top node is only about a half of a node. I actually cut the growth point in half, and I was quite shocked to see the growth point actually growing, and I'll insert some pictures of its progress along the way. I was really shocked that it was going to start there. I thought that growth point, which is still bulging out, but I thought that growth point would be the one that would give me a sprout. But actually the top growth point, which was cut in half, is where this is growing from. And so this has a very strong will to live. And it is quite large. This is a pretty big leaf. And of course it has another leaf coming. But my point is that even though you don't see those remnants of the fruit stems, does not mean that is not a fruiting Monstera as well. The top of it was removed and is right now rooting up as a fruiting Monstera. I'll put that for sale once it's rooted up and I see some new leaves. But for this bottom part, I just went ahead and threw those nodes in there, and there are quite a few nodes in there. And yeah, it's growing just fine. So just because you don't see the stem remnants does not mean it's not a fruiting Monstera. It is. And the bottom part of this vine is also a fruiting Monstera, and it's right here. Here's a couple of nodes on the bottom part of this vine. So that leads to this point. You may look at this and you may look at this and say, hang on for a second. They're both from giant vines. They're literally from the same vine. Why is this leaf so small and why is that leaf so big? Why doesn't that leaf look like that leaf? And a lot of sellers, I'm not throwing any sellers under the bus, but a lot of sellers are not explaining to people that when you only get a couple of nodes from them, this is the size that you're going to expect. You're not going to grow giant leaves like this when you only have one or two nodes. This is what you can expect from one or two nodes. This is the first leaf, which is that big. That was the first leaf. It did come out with fenestrations. They do come out mature, typically. This one is the second leaf, and it has come out mature, but it is not a large leaf. It is going to take a while before that leaf looks like that leaf. Why is that? Because wet stick has no roots and no leaves. So it has no roots to absorb and suck up nutrients, and it has no leaves to convert sunlight and photosynthesize for itself. So where does it get the energy to create roots and leaves? It gets the energy from inside of itself. Basically, the wet stick eats itself. The wet stick produces its roots and its leaves from itself. So if you only have a wet stick that is 1 or 2 nodes, that's not a lot for that plant to eat. So this plant has 1 to 2 nodes. I'm not exactly sure. I don't want to really dig it up and bother with the rooting or anything like that. But it's about 1 or 2 nodes that are in there. And this one has 9 nodes. This one is huge. This one has 9 nodes. So if you have a wet stick that has 9 nodes, it's going to come out with a huge leaf. It has a lot to eat. A wet stick with only 2 nodes only has 2 nodes worth of energy to eat. So that's the leaf that's going to be produced. So these literally are from the same vine. This is the same vine. This is a lower part. So it's not quite as fat as that, but it is pretty large. And this is the lower part of this vine. And I just put this in a pot, and then I threw the large part in a bucket. So they are both fruiting monsteras, but this is going to take a long time before it looks like this. So I wanted to explain that as well. The last one that I want to explain is this one. If you were to look at it, you would say, that leaf looks pretty tiny. That wet stick is pretty big. And I see those fruit nodes on it, those fruit stems, the remnant of those fruit stems. So, why is that leaf coming out so small? Okay, so for fruiting monsteras, the leaf that both precedes and follows the fruiting is always small. The leaf that comes right before the fruiting and the leaf that comes right after the fruiting is always a small leaf, because the monstera is focused on the fruiting. It's putting all of its energy on the fruiting. It's not concerned with making giant leaves. It is concerned with propagating and surviving and making babies for itself. So the energy that it has, it's going to devote to producing fruit and making sure that fruit is mature versus making giant leaves. So if you look at monsteras right before the fruiting, you'll see that the leaves get smaller, and then right after the fruiting, the leaf is small, and then it gets progressively giant again. So right now, this is a top cutting, believe it or not. You're used to seeing on giant monsteras, especially with a vine this thick, you're used to seeing absolutely enormous, very tall top cuttings. That is a top cutting. That's a top cutting of this fruiting vine. If you look at this, okay, let me just compare and contrast. If you look at this vine, this would be the top of the vine, and this is a node. So that is a node cut. This right here is not the top of the vine. This is coming from one of the nodes. The growth from this is coming from one of the nodes. By contrast, this would be the node that preceded the fruiting. This is the node that follows the fruiting. This is not a node cut. that is a top cut. That is the top of the vine. This is the top of a fruiting vine. This is the top of a fruiting monstera. That is what this is going to become. A big, giant fruiting monstera. It doesn't look like it now. It looks like a little tiny little leaf. But yes, this will become a giant fruiting monstera. This is the top. So I just wanted to explain, these all are fruiting monsteras. They're all different sizes and different cuttings, different types of cuttings, but they're all fruiting monsteras, whether they're node cut, whether they're top cut, whether they're small and just a couple of little nodes, or long and have a lot of nodes. These are all fruiting monsteras. They will all get giant one day. Even the little one will become a giant monstera one day. And they all will produce fruit, and all of their nodes are fruiting nodes.